I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, December 11th, and this is a Prescott City Council voting meeting. The only announcement I think I'd like to share is just last night, Councilman Good, myself, and Councilwoman Scholl attended a great event at Rue Street Theater regarding fentanyl and some other drugs that are kind of running through our community, unfortunately. And I can say I was very encouraged by the speakers and presentation there. I feel like we have a tremendous community that's looking out for our youth, everyone for that matter. But it was a great event. I applaud PUSD as well as the group Armed to Know that was a part of that last night. It was a great presentation. Today we have an invocation by Reverend Jay Wilcher with First Congregational Church and the pledge led by Councilman Lamerson.
Let us pray. We thank you, O God, for everybody's hometown. Thank you for the citizens and the leaders of this community that stood with our Jewish brothers and sisters a month ago with a vigil on the court square. And thank you that last week we stood together to support people of color and immigrants. Help us all to do our part to make sure that everyone knows this is everybody's hometown. Bless our mayor this Friday as he seeks to promote that message in his meeting. And now for this meeting today, we ask for your guidance and direction on these, our servants who are serving this community. Thank you for their willingness to serve for a very tough and difficult job. And so give them your wisdom today. We pray in your name. Amen.
Amen. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend. Call roll, please.
Mayor Mangarelli?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Orr?
Here.
Councilman Blair?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Good?
Here.
Councilman Lamerson?
Here.
Councilwoman Scholl?
Here.
Councilman Sischka?
Here.
All are present.
Thank you for that. And presentations.
There's one presentation today, recognition of the Citizens Academy second class.
Right. You mean there's not first class?
We want to invite all of our Citizens Academy participants to come on up forward. And just as a reminder for those in the audience and those who are watching, the Citizens Academy is an 8-week, come on up you guys, is an 8-week course essentially put on by the city. We cover all the major city departments. They get to see the operations. They get to talk to department heads and get acquainted with them. And hey, come up here, you guys. We'll have some more space. And as you can see, we had a great class. This is our second group that we've had.
See ya.
And they are graduating.
So as I call the names, Tyler's going to hand you your diploma, and then we've asked Jim Dawson and Nurse Betty to speak. And I will tell you, I'm just so excited about this group. It's the second class that we've done. We have another one starting in the spring, so you can all go and sign up. It's, as Tyler said, 8 weeks. Tyler spearheaded this and has just done an amazing job. So really, absolutely. But in addition to Tyler, it's every department head talks about their area. So it's additional time for everyone to do the preparation and also to go there in the evenings on Thursday evenings. So we appreciate the staff and all you, and a lot of you in the audience, so thank you for that. All right, Jim Anderson. Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Flora Black. And Flora is also one of our ambassadors. Thank you, Flora. Nurse Betty Borst, who I must say her grandson is in the audience, JT. And JD helped us so much this past, we had a lot of fun with him. He's learned a lot about how cities run. Yeah. He has. Bob Collins. Bob? Thank you. And his wife, Pat Collins. Dee Dee Craswell. Hi, Dee Dee. Thank you. Thank you. Jim Dawson. Thank you, Jim. Marvin Gartenbaum. Marvin, thank you. David Clever. David, thank you for being here last week. Norm Meyer. Hi. Hi, Norm. Terry and Nigel. Big day for you. John Peters. Thank you, John. Thank you very much. Barbara Poor. Hey, Barbara. Jim Poor. Hey, Jim.
Hey,
Good to
thanks
see
a
you.
lot.
You bet.
Great job.
Tim Whitaker. Hey, Tim. Thank you. Thank you for being here. So we've asked Betty Borst and Jim Dawson to just say a few words about your experience. So, Betty?
What an honor. That's all I can say. But I do have more to say. First of all, we may have been in the second class, but we are all first class. For 26 years, I have known that I was living in a very special place and that I was blessed to be a citizen of Prescott. The last 8 weeks have taught me just exactly why this is a special place and why I am so blessed. And I will continue to do whatever I can to give back to this city and to train my grandson to maybe, I don't know, run for city council or something. I'm not sure.
Or mayor one day.
Or mayor one day. We're not in any hurry, Mayor. Thanks to all of you for being here today. Thanks to my classmates who weren't just classmates. I feel like I've made some new friends. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Billy.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to first thank the City Council and the Mayor and all of the city officials and Councilwoman Orr for having this idea and doing this class. I'm on the other end from Betty, where we just moved here in January of this year. So we're new to the community, and if any of you saw Annie, at that time she says, I think we're going to like it here. Yeah. And boy, do we like it here. And this class did so much to settle us into the community and to feel welcome and to feel knowledgeable. And without repeating what my colleague said, the only other comment I'd make that I was just stunned by, and I've shared it with several of my classmates, is the level of professionalism and talent and quality of all of the department leaders who follow the example of the City Council. But as we went the first day with the mayor and city manager and the city attorney, and then all the way through to the last class where it was the fire department or the police department or public works or community development, all across the board, I was just amazed at how professional everyone is, and at the same time exceptionally friendly, very open, and very accepting. And for a new resident to the community, you can't understand how much that makes us feel this is home.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Get a picture? Okay, we're going to get a picture.
Everybody kind of make sure you face this way. Tyler, you too. There you go. Okay, everybody look this way. Smile.
Nobody can look that way, John.
Again. Again. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. And Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Yeah, you guys get some time off now.
Thank you.
Seeing you.
I know. Get some time off.
Got new surf.
Good to see you.
Good to be a part of this group.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
I get final blinds in tomorrow.
Cool. Well.
All right, congratulations, our first class, second class graduates. Let's move on to consent agenda. And do you have something you want to pull, Maureen?
Yes, Mayor. Item B on the consent agenda needs to be pulled.
Okay. And then the council want to pull anything from consent?
Yes, Mayor, I asked B, C, F, and I to be pulled.
Stay here all night.
So B, C, F, I. Okay. So looking for a motion if someone's keeping good track here on the
Okay.
consent.
So Mayor, I make a recommendation that we move to approve consent agenda items A, D, E, G, H, J, and K.
Second.
Well done. Motion and second. Please vote.
I'm sorry, who did the second?
I did.
Thank you.
You already pressed it twice.
Councilman Blair?
There you go.
Perfect. 7-0. Passes.
All right. Let's move then to consent. Let's see, are we at C here?
E and C.
B was
It's been
just
pulled.
Pulled.
B's.
Okay.
It's no longer on the agenda. There was a
See.
last minute. Yeah, we pulled it off removed it from the agenda because there were some last minute issues that the IDA legal counsel had to research. So we've removed it from the agenda for future consideration.
So at least for this meeting, permanently removed. So let's go to item C. Councilman Good?
Well, actually, John, I was going to make a comment and congratulate you, along with the city clerk, for identifying these two regulatory-related issues that you were able to identify as being unnecessary or redundant, and being able to eliminate them from our city government concerns. So I think that is a legitimate effort on your part, and I would encourage a continuing review of ordinances and other issues like that that no longer make sense or have been inactive for long periods of time. So reducing the size of government and regulation, I think, is important and something that I want to again thank the city clerk and the legal department for identifying. So those were just comments I wanted
And just
to
for
public.
item B will probably be brought forward to the council in January, since our next December meeting is next week. It's we're already past Maureen's hard deadlines. So Councilman Good, you'll have an opportunity to congratulate us and thank us again.
Wow. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
So concluding your comments there, we can take a motion on C then?
On C then. Mayor, I move to approve consent agenda item C, repealing number 4412-1621 Prescott Unified Development Code.
Okay.
Second.
Motion second. Please vote.
Mayor, I do have one comment. I'm sorry on item C. At the end of that should have been Development Code Committee, so we need to reflect that in the meeting or in the minutes and change the
Understood.
resolution.
Okay. Thanks for that clarification. We have a motion second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Okay. Let's move on to item 7F. Councilman Good?
Yeah, again, I wanted just to have the public aware that this is an ongoing membership cost to the city, and it's been ongoing for quite a number of years. And rather than just approve it without comment, I wanted to make sure that the city investment in this Upper Verde River Water Protection Coalition is actually producing measurable results for our taxpayer investment. So perhaps our committee member, Councilman Blair.
No report.
No report.
Just kidding. I assure you that we've been working hard on the Upper Verde Watershed Coalition. We have a lot of projects underway, and I would probably defer to Leslie. What is it? Close to $500,000 in projects have been approved that are underway. New grants and doing storm water harvesting, as well as doing wattle research. Maybe you can explain what wattle research is. Some people might be thinking differently. Yeah, come on up. Actually, there's a lot going on, and this group meets 4 times a year. And staff, you guys meet more than that as an executive team, but we have everybody from the Game and Fish Department involved to the Arizona State Land Department, all across every scope of different groups in Arizona. So we have a lot of people that are involved in a lot of different facets. So maybe you can give a quick rundown.
Yes, sir. Leslie Grazer, Water Resource Manager. So you're correct. The board meets on a quarterly basis. The technical group meets on a monthly basis. So the group has grown over time, moving into more projects than it had been in the past. So I believe the group came to be in about 2005, and then it was a much the cost was more. There were consultants involved, things of that nature. When there was the economic downturn, it reduced its released, I guess, the consultant, and took a new approach looking at biomass as a way to control watershed growth of junipers, things of that nature, and producing a product. So as Councilman Blair mentioned, they have entered into quite a few grants, and then the city's match, along with the other partners, helps in the cost share that's required for these grants. That's probably about the extent of it right now. To explain a wattle really quickly, they harvest juniper, they chip it, and those are like those peanuts that you see for stormwater management, things of that nature. So instead of using hay, the thought process was to use juniper and building an industry. I think it's still a very young industry at this point.
It's and just so people know, the wattles that are made now are made out of straw, and they deteriorate very rapidly. And with using the juniper harvesting chips, they last about 10 times longer. They're a little bit more costly, but there are a lot of people out in the market now looking at the overall value of using a natural product instead of the straw. And so we're moving that direction. And there's, like I say, there's a lot of people involved. And I think you hit the keynote. Back when I was on this water committee from its inception, we have reduced costs by half because we got rid of our high-paid consultant in Phoenix and left it up to our very qualified staff to run the group instead of the consultants. So we have reduced by half since we started.
Awesome.
So this is a, it is a membership, and it is at the discretion of the city if they would like to continue to participate. At this point, I haven't been given direction that the city wouldn't participate. And, as I said, that's a consideration that you'll want to look at this and see how you proceed forward in the coming years.
Well, I just want to make sure, again, that city tax dollars that are being spent to participate in this program are generating tangible benefits for the city. And it's not purely an academic study group.
Yep, exactly. And maybe it's time for a workshop or a study session or something on that to bring forward those things. Councilman Blair enjoys the quarterly meetings and the other activities that they do. But maybe it's time, I think this is what I'm hearing, that it's...
I would suggest maybe, Mary, at a workshop, and I agree with Phil.
Bless you.
At a workshop, maybe we have a half-hour presentation by the executives of what exactly they've accomplished.
Good.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Sischka.
Thank you. Well, I agree with, and I'm saying this affectionately, Mr. Scrooge. And
appropriate for this time of year.
I asked Michael the same question myself, and he gave me an appropriate answer. My question is, who is involved? Who are the main players in the Upper Verde River Watershed Protection Organization?
The core group would be the Yavapai County, Town of Prescott Valley, City of Prescott, Chino Valley, and the Yavapai Prescott Indian Tribe. And then they extended out, as Councilman Blair was explaining, a watershed task force. And that's where it brings in Forest Service and state land and a whole collection of people that were coordinating, providing their expertise for this biomass project and watershed protection process. So,
and not to drive this out, but it also has a lot to do with Firewise and taking on some of these areas and chipping stuff that brings in the forestry and how we can reutilize the materials that we're taking down. So I think it's a huge thing with all the agencies.
Thank you.
Councilman Lamerson?
Thank you, Mayor. Blair, you're our liaison there. Is there a value to the city being involved with this?
100%.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Leslie. Appreciate it. We're looking for a motion here, I think.
Mayor, move to approve consent item 7F.
Second.
Motion second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
All right. Then item 7I. Councilman Good?
Yeah, when I saw this and I looked at the source material referencing Section I, it did mention an extension of our current water management policy and amendments. I didn't see any amendments in the source material. So my question was, what is being amended to our current water policy? And I think that's an important aspect of voting on this.
I can give a brief summary, and if you need more details, the resolution, section 1 is what the amendments are. So, if you look at the resolution that extends the policy, it says subject to the following alterations: 1, A, B, C. Those are the 3 amendments that are to the policy. So rather than give you a sort of red line of the policy, we just laid them out in the resolution as the attachment. If you need more details about what all that means, you can turn it over to Clyde.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So if you look at subsection A, this was at the request of our Public Works Department. They said that they'd been having, this increases the number of units that can be approved administratively by 1. They'd gotten a lot more requests for 4. They had to come to y'all, and they said, well, if we just bumped it up to 4 or less, it would make life a lot easier for us. So that's one of the amendments. The second one is allocation policy 11, which in the past had prevented us from allocating more than 50% of the remaining water. We had run into some problems with that over the past several years. Towards the end of the year, when the remaining balance gets very low, it really isn't enough to fund any projects at 50% of that. So we're proposing getting rid of that. And then last, there was an alternative water budget table in the previous policy that laid out the allocations for commercial, residential, and multifamily residential. We're proposing getting rid of that and just having simply one pool of water for the next 6 months.
Well, I can understand some of the problems as you get to year end, as the allocation is dwindling, and then you're only allowed to allocate 50% of that dwindling amount. However, I think it's a relatively effective moderator to allocations, because by taking that out, potentially a large development could gobble up all the water that we allocate at the beginning of the year. Wouldn't that be true?
It would be, yes.
But you get to see it as a councilman when it comes to you. So you can say, we're only going to give you half the water this year and half the water next year.
Right.
It was just another layer of stumping the water group. When somebody comes in with a qualified project, we have to tell them to go away.
We've done
This
that.
way, we don't have to tell them to go away. We can tell them, let's look at it. And you get a chance to do that when the water committee brings it to the council.
And in fact, Councilman Good, we did that just last year. There was an apartment complex that we gave them half of their water at the very end of the year, and then the other half in the first meeting in January.
So in that case, that particular project could have been fully water funded at the initial application and not have to come back for reapplication for the balance.
That's correct. So by doing this, it doesn't allow us or make us miss projects that we think may be beneficial to the city because of our regulations.
All right, so as long as we have sufficient review, I think I can support this. Thank you.
Okay. Looking for a motion on item 7I, please.
Move to approve item I on the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Okay. Thank you. Let's move on to item 8.
Adopt ordinance number 2018-1637, amending the Prescott City Code, Title I, Chapter 1-21, Advisory and Appeals Board.
Okay, looking for a motion.
Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 2018-1637.
Second.
Motion and second, please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Let's move on to item 9A.
Public hearing and consideration for a new liquor license application for a Series 10 beer and wine store, liquor license from Sherry Shaw applicant for Back Alley Wine Bar located at 156 South Montezuma Street, Suite E. The application has been determined to be in compliance with city requirements. The application fee has been paid, and the application has been posted for 20 days. No comments have been received, and I believe the applicant is here today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to say anything about your business, or no? You don't have to. I was just asking.
You know, I'll be honest with you.
Go ahead and come on up to the podium if you don't mind.
This one?
Yes.
This is kind of a backup license. I had my 7, which allows me to actually serve wine, not just purchase wine, fell through. So this is kind of a backup license. I am applying for a 7, so you'll probably see me here again next month for that one.
Well, thanks so much for your investment in our city. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Sherry.
All right, do I hear a motion on the public hearing?
Mayor, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second, please vote.
Passes 7-0.
And the second part?
Mayor, I move to approve liquor license application number 36258, Series 10, beer and wine store liquor license for Back Alley Wine Bar located at 156 South Montezuma Street, Suite E.
Second.
Motion and second, please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you, Sherry. All right, let's move on to item 9B.
Public hearing and consideration for an owner transfer liquor license application for a Series 6 bar liquor license from Keith and Jill Redmond, applicants for Birdcage Saloon located at 160 South Montezuma. The application has been determined to be in compliance with city requirements. Application fee has been paid, and the application has been posted for 20 days, and no comments have been received.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm Keith Redman. I'm also along with my wife, Jill.
Hi.
She was going to be shy. But we're here in regards to the birdcage, and we appreciate your time.
Congratulations.
Well, absolutely. Thank you so much for doing business in our city. We appreciate all our small businesses and what you do here. So thank you so much for your investment.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move to the public hearing here.
Mayor, I move to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second, please vote.
Passes 7-0.
And go ahead.
Mayor, I move to approve recommendation for liquor license application number 35928 for an owner transfer for Series 6 bar liquor license for Birdcage Saloon, location 160 South Montezuma.
Second.
We have a motion and second, please vote.
Passes 7-0.
All right. Thank you all. Thanks for being here.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Let's move on to item 10A, please.
Acceptance of an Arizona Water Protection Fund grant to create a master plan for the Granite Creek Corridor.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. We were very excited to hear that we were granted this money from the Arizona Water Protection Fund. Just to give you a little bit of background, and then I'll touch just real briefly on the master plan. This came about, it's really a executive roundtable of the chamber discussing the Granite Creek Corridor and the Greenway Trail that runs through it. We've been meeting for several months. The city has obviously a stake in it, as well as business owners, nonprofits, other community members. Christy Everson is chairing that group. And we've discussed a whole realm of possibilities through this corridor, running from Aubrey Street at the south, going north or downstream through the corridor, pretty much up to Granite Creek Park. There's a lot of ideas coming out of it, but ideally you want a master plan to understand where you're going to go and what direction you're going to take. And so we hired Natural Channel Design out of Flagstaff. They're a really great partner to help us do an initial assessment of the corridor, as well as do a wonderful grant application, which was successful. We were down there just the beginning of November presenting, and found out just a couple weeks ago that we were awarded $79,000, 401 to be exact. And to run through this, just real briefly, I don't want to take too much time, but you can see on the map the corridor runs quite a bit of length of the downtown, about 1.2 miles. And the master plan would look at a few things: improving stream function, the riparian habitat, and the green space connectivity to other trails throughout the city. And why do we need a master plan? Well, number one, there's been a lot of impacts on that corridor from urbanization in the downtown. There's a lot of invasive species that have been identified. And the channel of the stream itself, the creek, has been rerouted over the years to make it more functional for downtown use. And looking at our initial assessment, there's concerns about the stability of the creek and the banks and all of those things that go along with it. The risk of flooding is always there. And we wanted to identify who are the stakeholders. There's the public, obviously, the citizens, the businesses that run along that corridor, and utilities that cross through it, whether it's city or privately owned or otherwise. And then there's competing needs. Some people use it just to recreate. Some use it actually to go to and from work. Some do activities in the downtown, go to eat and go to the events. So the master plan will help formalize all these things and create a list of tasks that we can tackle. The goal would be to improve that habitat and the water quality, and to improve the usability of the trail itself, to allow for greater access and enhanced safety. That was one of the big concerns that's come up. It looks dark and scary down there. There's not a whole lot of points to get on and off the trail unless you're at a major street. And so we've talked a lot about that, about aesthetics, the fencing, lighting, all those things, signage to help people know where they're going, and then obviously to reduce the risk of flooding. And if you can see on the right, in the initial assessment, they identify that up to 40% of the overstory of the tree growth is made up of non-native or invasive species, which is a lot. And they gave us a very informative map that shows exactly where that is, and if you remove them all at once, what kind of canopy would be left. Well, it's not much, and so there needs to be a phased plan. We actually have volunteers from Prescott Professional Landscaping and Terra Sol Landscaping who are working with Joe Baines and others in the city to do just a quick sweep of especially those invasive species that are in the channel, the creek currently, to reduce flooding immediately. So that'll help, but we're going to create a more formal plan going forward. Also, a site assessment plan will be a part of this, looking at all of those things: vegetation, right-of-ways, utilities. And as you can see, we've already done some investment in it. And in fact, through Joe Baines, we've removed, if you're familiar with, on Goodwin Street, the chain link fences that were on the bridge that goes over that corridor. Well, we've removed those, lowered it down so people can walk by, drive by, ride by, and look down and say, oh, it's not as scary as I thought. There's actually a trail down there, and there are some signs, but we're going to improve on those things. A big part of it will be the public outreach and education plan. That'll go over the length of this grant, and we want a lot of feedback and input from the public. We're going to hold open meetings. We're going to share all the information that we have and will have, do some press releases, have some public comment periods, and that will really help us understand what people are looking for. And those are just some summaries. I won't waste too much of your time with that, but if there's any questions, I'd be happy to ask. One more thing to add, I guess, is the period, the length of this grant. We're looking to receive the funds most likely in April or May of 2019, with the process being about 12 months to complete the master plan with all those things entailed. And the good news is, after we complete that plan, there's capital project money from the Arizona Water Protection Fund that we can go back to and say, this is what we have as a plan. We'd love to have more funding to now implement it.
Thank you, Mr. Goodman. Great presentation. I'm very excited to see this move forward. This is an asset that we've had in our city and we're not leveraging adequately. And so this is really going to help improve those businesses along this greenway. It's going to help with pedestrian and bicycle usage to get folks maybe off the streets and down in a safer area. And it's really going to complement the regentrification that's happening on the north end of this project. So tremendous job. I'm so excited to see it move forward, even though it's at the speed of government, but at least it is moving forward. Councilman Good.
Yeah, I want to again thank the local young Prescottonian group for kind of initiating this, and this is a significant funding source to really plan this thing well. Over my professional career, I actually counted one time. I think I've moved 14 times following different opportunities. And 3 of those locations, both Sacramento, Houston, and San Antonio, all took river assets and really turned them into a great community use asset, rather than maybe what's currently considered by some a bit of an annoyance. But the San Antonio River Walk, the Houston River Walk, the American River Bike Trail and Hiking Trail in Sacramento, all were developed similarly and became really valuable assets to the community. So I see this as another example of what can be done, and I really applaud you and the group that's working on this to advance it. So thank you very much.
Councilman Blair?
Tyler, do you know through the scope of planning whether they're going to saw cut some of those walls and put steps to some of the other businesses so that there's availability for more trail use? And also the scary thought to some people that might walk down there, whether they be women with, baby carriages or whatever, is being able to get out of that corridor and to be able to give them a safe access out. Are they going to plan 4 or 5 new access points?
At least, yeah. That's one of the major concerns, is not enough access points. If you want to get off the trail, how can you do it quickly and to increase the safety aspect? So yes, that'll be a big part.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councilman Lamerson.
Thank you very much. Tyler, are you fully aware that Councilman Blair has a Parks and Recreation degree?
I did know that, yes.
That he's educated in? I mean, believe it or not, he is educated. So at the end of the day, my question would be, has he been approached about serving on the master planning committee for something? And not only was he duly elected by the people here, but he's educated in this type of thing. And you might want to reach out and include him on a master planning committee that has to do with something as significant as Granite Creek.
We can certainly do that.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, thank you, Tyler. This has been such an impressive group. Barry Barb with El Gato Azul, because Barry has done some fencing of his own, and he wants to clean this all up, because you're having lunch there and you look down and you see this. Definitely needs to be cleaned up. Prescott Creeks is involved in this as well, and of course our Parks and Recreation and our staff with our water folks. And Michael Lamar. Michael, you've had a key role in kind of leading this, and appreciate that. Also Charlotte Hall, because there's a way to get in from Charlotte Hall. So we've been talking to Fred Vale. And I just really want to compliment Christy Everson for stepping up. And I think she's taken like 300 pictures of it to say this is what we need to do, and it's created a timeline. It's been a very impressive group, and I really appreciate everybody's work. Like Mayor said, it's just going to fit in so well with what we're doing with the Granite Creek Park and the hotel and the railroad trellis. And so it's all just going to be very special when it's done. So it would be a shame if we did all the other and didn't do that. So thank you very much.
Okay, public comment on this one?
Sandy Smith?
Mayor, Council, good afternoon again. I'm just wondering about the access routes, because in the downtown area, it's mostly stairs. Now, we're looking at, right now, putting in a trail that goes from the north end of this on over through the VA over toward Prescott Valley. But if you got the downtown area where you can only access it by stairs, that kind of limits who can use it.
There is a ramp at the rear of Charlotte Hall's library that we're negotiating the ability to put in ADA parking space and utilize that ramp as an access point for folks with physical.
Well, I was thinking of getting off, because I'd get on down by LaRue more, but and there's others down my way that live in that area who could use it that way then.
Hopefully we can find more than one location, but we've already thought about that, and there is one location that's already been identified, and we're working on a lease. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sandy. Any other public comment, Maureen? Good job, Tyler. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to accept Arizona Water Protection Fund grant to create a master plan for Granite Creek Corridor.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
All right, let's move on to item 10B, please.
Amendment to comprehensive sign plan for Touchmark at the Ranch to remove a condition of the original approval.
Hey, George.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Sorry about my voice. I've been dealing with a cold for a few days. This is a request to modify a comprehensive sign plan that this council approved back at the beginning of January of 2016. It was for Touchmark at the Ranch. They have a very large development, and because of the size of their development, they normally would come in and have a comprehensive plan that would provide all of the signage to be of a similar type or of a good standard so that it links the entire development together. And they did that. At the time they did that, they went through a planning commission review, which is part of the typical process. And during the discussion of planning commission, the specific request came up regarding an existing sign that had been up there for years that advertised the ranch. And that sign, Touchmark wanted to repurpose. It's, again, been there for years. Planning Commission recommended a limitation on that of a couple of years and then reconsideration by council. It came before City Council. That discussion occurred here as well, again, January of 16, with the consideration of that sign having a limited duration and then either coming back to you through a request like this or a reconsideration by council of whether or not it should be allowed to stay as a permanent sign rather than just that 2-year introductory period, so to speak. Touchmark reached out to us and asked that it be brought back to you for your consideration of amending their code, comprehensive sign plan, for 2 pieces. One would be to allow that sign to stay long-term, permanent with the rest of the signage on the site. And the other would be to allow a very muted background type lighting to go with the sign. We provided you minutes from your meeting in January of 16. You'll noted that one of the conditions was no lighting of the sign. That was a result of temporary lighting that was put in place at the time that Touchmark was just beginning. That temporary lighting was external. It was very reflective, and it was obviously going to be an issue for nearby property owners. They've made some modifications to their process, to their project, to show a different type of lighting, and we provided you some information on that as well. Just to give you a little bit better idea, and I apologize, it's a little hard to see, but I had to search around for a picture that actually had the beginning of the building in. So the sign is actually located right here. It's on that prominent ridge as you're driving eastbound on State Route 69. It's right up on top. Right now it says Touchmark at the Ranch on it. It is not lighted at night. And it is intended to be remodeled so that it matches even better with the existing comprehensive sign plan, and to provide what they call halo lighting, which is a background lighting that just lights the background around the letters, making it visible at night. This is probably one of the lowest impact types of nighttime lighted signs available with today's technology. So the request was made for council to consider amending the comprehensive sign plan to allow the sign to remain permanently and to allow the sign to be lighted in the manner indicated on the depiction. Because it was specifically a council action, there is no staff recommendation one way or the other. We're simply open to whatever direction you want to go with the discussion, and we'll handle any paperwork or technicalities as you direct. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Let's see, Councilman Blair.
This is one of those history lesson times. First of all, I want to thank Touchmark for bringing jobs and stability to the community, which was dearly needed. Number 2, past council and a council person that was on council is not on council now had a burr under their saddle about what the city of Prescott waived for impact fees to Touchmark and used the sign as a hinge pin, so to speak. And so her comment was that if we're going to waive the fees for this organization to come in, that she wanted the sign to come down and not be permanent. Well, I disagreed with that, and I think at the time most of the council did too. The sign's not offensive. They've made it better. It's a great project. It's a beautiful facility, and I see no reason whatsoever not to include it as a permanent fixture for Touchmark at the ranch.
Thank you for that history. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, I really like the backlighting. I think that's really classy, and that is a classy project. So I think I don't have a problem at all with this backlighting. It's not going to hurt anything with the night sky, so it should be perfect.
Other questions or comments from the council? Any public comment? Looking for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make that motion. I'd like to move to approve and amend comprehensive sign plan for Touchmark at the ranch.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, George. Item 10C.
Approval to purchase one 2019 Isuzu rear load truck from Midway Chevrolet.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Mike Carr, Fleet Services. This item is requesting permission to purchase a new small rear load collection vehicle for the Solid Waste Division. The vehicle will consist of an Isuzu chassis and curb tender Quantum 8-yard body from Midway Chevrolet, using State of Arizona contract for a total cost of $125,724.66. The new vehicle purchase was reviewed by the Fleet Asset Review Board and approved for FY19. The Fleet Asset Review Board considered the division needs, how the asset will be used, and the overall benefit to the city. Working in conjunction with the Solid Waste Division, we're requesting permission to purchase the new rear load collection vehicle. The Solid Waste Division will utilize the small collection vehicle to perform various collection duties throughout the city. The primary function will be to collect garbage and recycle 6 days a week at over 500 households in hard-to-access areas of the city. The vehicle will also perform downtown courtesy can collections, holiday and special event collections, and missed collection pickups. The new rear load will significantly improve the collection efficiency and enhance worker safety. The small collection route is not suitable for the large automated collection vehicles due to the narrow roads, steep inclines, and challenging egress areas that require backing. Fleet Services is utilizing the State of Arizona contract in order to receive the best pricing available on medium and heavy-duty vehicles. Pricing has been compared to local dealerships and has been determined to be the most beneficial method for purchasing the asset. Funding of $125,724.66 is available in the FY19 solid waste budget. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Any questions or comments from the council? Councilman Blair, yes.
This is the same sort of vehicle, the one we're replacing, like you take into the city lights and places where it's very difficult terrain.
So this is sort of a new type of a vehicle that we're getting. It's a smaller rear load collection vehicle. We feel that the length, the clearance on the back end, and the turning radius is going to allow us to access roads that we haven't been able to access in the larger solid waste collection trucks.
So what happens with the one that you're using now at those areas?
So currently they have what's called a Parcan truck. Right. I brought that forward like 4 or 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's just not efficient for what they're doing now. They've added more streets to that, so they have to go back and dump 5, 6, 7 times.
So are you, I guess the point I'm trying to make, are you going to try to repurpose that vehicle for Parks and Recreation or some other department?
We haven't had that discussion. I think they're going to still continue using it in a smaller capacity, but still doing pickups and collections with that vehicle.
I know what Parks and Recreation has is probably less.
I wish they still made those trucks, actually. The pup trucks are great.
So anyway, I appreciate it. I support this 100%.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Public comment? All right. Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve city contract number 2019-149.
Second. Motion and second. Please vote.
Passes 7-0.
Thanks, Mike. This quote is from one of the most influential people ever in our world, I believe, Mother Teresa. We shall never know all the good that a simple smile can do. This meeting is adjourned.